This is 2OF Entertainment.
Welcome to the Lost Dollar Business Club, where we talk about business, and not just business. We talk about what makes businesses go up and what makes businesses go down. If you're interested in businesses, this is where it is. We talk about the global economy. We talk about global politics. We talk about everything and anything business related that affects your life on a global scale as well as a local scale. And don't miss after the show, Lost and Found.
Welcome back to the Lost Dollar Business Club, and it's a sunny day in the UK. Depends on where you're listening to this, and I can really feel that we've just dropped from August to September, and not that the clocks have changed, but the weather has changed. And I look at it as we go back into September, that focus from the summer months where people might have been slacking off, that the focus is now back on work. And getting busy again and doing deals and whatever. And when I worked in the city, the market started working back working properly from about September, when the kids had gone back to school and stuff like that. How about you, David? What's going on in your world?
Well, yeah, I started off with a t-shirt this morning, and I'm at the top of the house. It got cold. I put a jacket on. So there you go. That's all season, 4 seasons in one day. Just before we get going, Anthony, as you know, we've been looking after or trying to support one of our people that have been on the show, and we just want to run their GoFundMe advert, because we're doing that all through the month of September. So let's just do that for the Candle Lady.
Hi, everybody. This is Steve from 2OF Entertainment. We have a friend of ours that does candles, and you've seen her be interviewed. Her husband is being overwhelmed with medical bills because he has stage 4 cancer. And since she's part of the 2OF family, she has started a GoFundMe page. And what we'd like to do is say, if you can find it in your heart, if you can give them a few dollars, that would be great to help them with his cancer fight. Please join us in showing them love and the support that the 2OF family likes to show people who have been on the show. And once again, thank you very much.
Great
So
stuff.
there you go.
As we say,
it's also here in Holland. It's also, I should say Cancer Week. That sounds awful, but it's Cancer Collection Week as well. So anybody listening in Holland at the moment, please contribute. It's certainly touched my life in many ways, both personally and family. So every little helps.
I was just going to say, interesting enough, so next week's guests, all being well, because we know how our schedules, are up and down, is a good friend of mine. He's part of my men's network called Phil Robertson. And interestingly, Phil, not only is he a good businessman, but he's coached more people, I believe, to finish the London Marathon than anyone else in the world. And the important point there is that obviously most of these people are raising money for charities, be it cancer charities, make your own versions of what charities they could be. And it makes you realize how many people are affected by things like cancer and all different types of stuff. And, helping charities in any way you can always be a real benefit. And Phil will be on here next week, not just talking about helping people run marathons, because that doesn't necessarily relate to business, but he's someone that's very much into optimization. So he works with hyperbaric chambers, he works with red light therapy. And my view on that is that all of those things will help a man or woman who's running a business. If you can be optimal in yourself, hopefully you're in a better position to do well in business, because if you look good, feel good, you're energized. So we'll be covering a lot of that next week. And I believe Phil's dad passed away a few years ago, and I think it was pancreatic cancer. I might have got that wrong, but it was definitely something like that. And it just reminds us that this shit touches all of us at some point in our lives, if that makes sense. But on to today's, we call it the graveyard of ideas, because, and I've written notes on this because there was various points I wanted to cover. But what I've loved hearing over the years is some people that have come up with ideas and actioned them, and other people that have come up with ideas for business and done fuck all with it. And I realize there's a fine line between a good idea and a bad idea, but there's also a fine line between thinking about it and actually doing it. And I can give you my own example, always talk from experience. when I started the Whole Man Academy, which is personal development platform for men, I remember thinking, I want to start, but I don't know where to start. And that often is a problem for guys and women, because it can seem like a big leap. And what I did was took advice from one or two people who said, just do something and get started, and you don't have to have all the answers. So if I think back to 2018, which seems like the world was, maybe for some people, the world felt like a different place back then. Maybe we were slightly freer, I'm not sure. But with my own company, I remember saying, right, let's just do something. And that was run events for men. And I honestly didn't know if anybody was going to come along, but they did. And one event turned into 2 and 3 and 4. And, by the end of 2019, I'd come into, I think, like 12 or 13 events for men. And it was at that point I realized that my little idea was also a big idea. So it's really interesting to think, I bet so many people, even if they're currently running a business, have got other ideas of things they'd like to do or launch or something that they're sitting on. And I wrote here, like, everyone's got a notebook or like a napkin full of ideas that basically never see the light of day. David, what's your thoughts on that? Because you're really old, so you must have had loads of fucking great ideas.
Yeah. Constantly. That's the trouble. Well, two things really. I mean, right back into your intro, talking about the guest that's going to come on, running a marathon. I mean, God, that's what if you want to know anything about business, that's running a marathon. Yeah, good. I mean, you have two sorts of people, I think, with ideas. You have the sort of personal idea, the guy who thinks, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump out of that airplane. I'm going to make that move.
Yeah.
And they just go up there and do it, and they just see what happens when they get on the airplane, and then they just jump. Some with parachutes, some without. And then you have other people who think, oh, well, where do I purchase a parachute from? Let me document that. Oh, I wouldn't feel safe unless I packed my own parachute. Oh, yeah. Am I going to carry it on? Do I trust anybody to carry that parachute onto the airplane with me?
Yeah.
So there, somewhere in between is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Between taking the risk, as it is a risk, but not letting all the unknowns totally debilitate you, paralyze you, because there's loads of people, like say, everybody's got a good idea. Like they say, everybody's got a good book in them somewhere. Everybody's got a good idea somewhere.
Got to do something.
Yeah, and you've just got to do it better and listen to what everything everybody says to you about the idea. Everything, listen to it all, smile at them nicely, and then ignore it and go and do what you want to do.
Well, you've reminded me of, I don't know if you know who a guy called Daniel Priestley is. And he is a guy I've interviewed in my own podcasts, and he's recently been on some of the very big podcasts in the UK, which technically would be worldwide, with people like Alex Hormozy. And I read one of his books many years ago where he said some simple rules can always help. Like when you come up with an idea and you're thinking of launching something, make 3 calls and just phone a couple of people and tell them about your idea. And you'd be amazed how those people, I think generally people want to help. Well, especially if they're in business, they like to see others doing well. And the make 3 calls point was, if you give them a call and say, hey, I'm thinking of this idea, they'll often say, hey, I can either help you with it or I know someone that can. And opportunities will open up for you. And that would be one of my first, and it's not even my advice, but my advice that I've taken from someone else is that first thing of, be mildly clear on what you are trying to launch, or a new product or a new project or whatever. And, just mention it to a few people. And you said rightly so, David, just because they come back with advice or ideas, you don't have to listen to them. But, some of the best stuff that I've done is because I've gone and spoken to some others who are technically further ahead in business than me. And they said, well, have you thought about doing this? And my view is you can only have your own ideas. And if you don't go and share them with some other people, you'll be stuck with your own kind of thought process. But always go out there and, have a conversation with 2 or 3 people and see what comes up for them. And I always think, what's the difference? Because you just touched on there. of the people that think about doing something and actually doing it. And I think because ideas are safe, ideas don't cost you money, you don't have to stay up late to have ideas, and you don't have to work on them, but it's the execution that becomes the risk, because you might tell other people, you'll tell people about your business idea or something, and some people might not understand it and they'll laugh at you. I remember going back to the city to talk to some ex-colleagues and told them about the Whole Man Academy, which I was running and doing events. And one of the guys kind of laughed at me and said, why are men going to come to events? And that just sounds like shit. And I thought, great, I could have easily just been downhearted and downtrodden by that. But my view was, well, you just don't, I haven't put it across to you what the value is in this.
He wasn't the sort of person that needed or wanted, or you wanted to be in the academy.
Yeah.
Negative. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, I don't want to be sort of totally blasé. Sorry, I don't want to be totally blasé about, listening to everything and then just ignoring it. But there are so many people who say, you can't do this and you can't do that. But when I first started, I came to Holland with just with my with my backpack. That was it. There wasn't any work here waiting for me to come when I came in the late 80s. There wasn't any work here anyway for a lot of people, Dutch people. But I met a few people, and one guy just said to me, well, aim high, think big. And that's kind of stayed with me.
Yeah.
And and I always say to Steve as well about Steve's the co-owner of the 2OF channel, the amount of people who told us that this wouldn't work. And we still struggle. We got 100,000, but we still struggle to keep it moving, give it momentum. But I just say, I just keep swinging, and sorry.
I always think it's really interesting. So I'm going to come on to the question of what was your vision for this channel in a minute, because again, it shows how it's grown to something that will be impacting people's lives. But there's two guys who've been helping recently. One has launched, but he's trying to build a faceless YouTube channel with Christian content, which is a great what's the word? There's a huge market for that, and we are very realistic in the fact that we see little milestones as well, like your first 100 subscribers. Let's celebrate it. Your first video that gets over 5,000 views or something. Let's celebrate it. And for him, he needed someone, and this is why it can be hard in business, who understood what it's like, that if you tell other people, they won't get it. And for him, and I saw him this morning, and it's just chipping away at your idea, not having all the ideas, not having all the answers. But we looked at it that, what is your targets for the year? Like next would be like 1,000 subscribers, et cetera, et cetera. And I always think if you can get around the right people that have got for want of a better phrase, but a positive mental attitude, realistic and positive are quite helpful. But you have to look at AI now. If people have got ideas, you've got to try and use AI to help you. And I was on an 1.5-hour call with a big group of guys last night who are in my men's group. One of the guys is ex-police, and he's launching a local business, which is going to be basically kind of windows and doors for homes, for private property in theory. I don't know if it's commercial. And he's stuck in the fog of, there's all this stuff to do. I've got to have a logo, and I'm going to have to pay people, and I've got to have a website, and that's going to cost loads of money. And we stopped him on the call, and it's just a reminder to everybody, said, no, you don't need a logo at all. You're just imagining it. But whilst he was talking to me on the call, I logged into AI and basically typed out, my mate Craig wants to launch a company that does windows and doors. Just briefly create me a logo. And it spat out 4 really good logos. And I said to him, where shall I send my bill? Because, someone will tell you that would have charged 500 quid for it or something. I've just created it in 10 seconds on AI, which is just good.
Well, I think there are two aspects to that. One is that, the old biblical, getting onto the Christian thing, the biblical statement is the straw that broke the camel's back. In many respects, the fact there's something bigger that's holding him back other than the logo, but he visualizes that as being the logo.
Yeah.
So it's a case of just peeling it back peeling it back, because anybody you can ask your kids to draw your logo. If you don't have any kids, your next door neighbor's kids, they'll draw your logo. They don't care. So that's just kind of it's a mental block that he's got somewhere else down the channel.
That's right. And the next example of that was, and I see it so much with people who are trying to launch businesses, or they're trying to rebrand where they were, or what they're doing, and they always get stuck in that. Oh, I need a new website. I need a new this, need that. And you say, listen, it's not to say you don't need one, but you don't need it to relaunch your business. And with this guy again, we said, look, one of the guys on my call used to work or has done contractual work for OpenAI, so he's very, very good. And he said, you literally jump on a call with me. I can create your website in about 5 minutes. You can clone up websites, etc. So therefore, if anybody's listening and worrying about that stuff, for Christ's sake, use AI to say, this is what I think I need to work on. Like, how can AI help me with the boring stuff, if that makes sense? Because you should be working on the business, not in the business, in little logos and stuff like that. But
I think one of the really important goals is now going forward is to say to yourself, how can I build a business on a threepenny bit? For that, because there are people out there now that I was listening to a young entrepreneurs club on a podcast, and they've already done several startups themselves, and they have got this competition going, saying, how can we build another £1 million business turnover, then £1 million turnover business on the lowest possible amount of money?
Right.
So that's the competition that they've got going together. Because if I'm working with a carpenter and he's got the special sort of saw that I need at that point in time, and he's not using it, I just ask him and say, can I use it? Yeah, sure, of course you can. So it's the same with AI. There's so much stuff out there that you can use, and it's there. It's well, not all of it's free, but it is of.
It's very cheap.
You can set up a complete working business, including the bookkeeping and everything else, for the same price as 5 years ago. You could have 250 business cards printed.
Yes.
That's how ridiculous it is. Now tell me why you can't set up a business, why you can't just say, all right, this is my idea, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, and at least fucking try. This is where I try to say to guys when I speak to them who are thinking about something. It comes back to several of my concepts, as I've shared on here before, about becoming the 1 night a week man. Yes, you might have a job and you've got kids and what have you, fine, but at least say to your wife and your kids, or whoever, I'm trying to further my bank balance, which benefits all you lot, or it will create more freedom for me if I don't have my 9-to-5 job one day and I can transition into another business. But at least say 1 night a week, do you know what, I'm going to spend, I'm going to have dinner, get home, have dinner, and then I'm just going to get on my fucking laptop and research what to do. It's just a lot of people want to.
It's the same, if you have a dog and you give it a bone, it's just going to sit and chew on it, and that's the same. You just need to do it. I say that a lot to my partner. I said, because she says, well, why do you have to do this? You're retired. Why? I said, because I'm a dog that needs a bone. I need this. It gives me something. It's not tangible, but it gives me something.
And where did who came up with the concept of the 2OF entertainment? Because again, that was once an idea, like everything around us, if you look around, was once an idea.
As we probably discussed this earlier on one of the other shows, but basically what happened was we were in another company, Steve and I, and we had a marketing department, and we put this idea forward because I know I was doing a lot of stuff with artists, painters predominantly, and we were linking their physical product to an NFT. And Steve was in this NFT company. He approached me, said, "Oh, can we talk to you about NFTs?" We got talking. So that's great. For him, that was the missing link. If you bought the NFT, if you bought the NFT, you got the painting free. If you bought the painting, you got the NFT free. Depends on which way you looked at it. Yeah. But you had something you could put on your wall and something that you could put in your digital wallet. doesn't make a lot of sense in the Western world, but in Asia, huge business.
Yeah.
So we had this conversation and said, yeah, well, let's get some of these artists on to talk about their artwork. And the discussion was, yeah, well, nobody wants to listen to them. I said, well, we don't know. We haven't tried. And this went on and on and on. And yeah, we're going to do it. We'll look into it. And then they didn't. And they were doing something else. And they were a marketing department. So I rest my case there, counsellor. And so we said, right, well, let's just have a go at it then. So we did it. As I say, we started off as two old white guys. Our first guest we had on was a gentleman of colour who laughed his ass off when he found out the name of the show. He said, that's the show I have to be on. But that got changed because, you know, the wokeness around us decided that wasn't a good thing to do. So we went to two old farts. And then we had some ladies that joined us, and they said, well, yeah, we get a lot of blowback from that as well. You know, farts, come on.
Yeah.
And we're not old, but you are.
Yeah.
We had to set up a corporation because we wanted to monetize the station, because obviously it costs money to keep it going. So it came to 2OF Corp. So it's a registered company in the US. And so, yeah, 2OF Entertainment is...
That's where it's from.
All of that stuck into there.
And that's why...
Going back to your gentleman, I don't want to talk too much about anybody's particular plans. YouTube are a bit iffy at the moment about content only. They're really cracking down on that.
Yeah.
And I would suggest, because that's the one thing that it has shown us in the last 5 years, is if he just wants to put, you know, himself up for 5 minutes and to introduce what's happening
right
on the show, that's going to make all the difference, because it cuts down on the fact that it's content only. And believe it or not, people actually like people.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, you know,
and open offer to you and to him, if he wants to republish on the 2OF channel, we'll do it for him for free. We're an open channel, ladies and gentlemen. You can send us all your content. We're more than happy to.
We're a welcoming bunch.
Yeah.
But
no restrictions on the channel.
The game has changed. I mean, I know we've talked about AI before, and I don't think we'll ever stop talking about it whilst it's growing, because we have no real concept. Most people have no concept of what AI can do, how powerful, how useful it is, how much money it can help you make, how much time it can save you, etc. But for someone like him, you know, I explained that I follow certain faceless YouTube channels that are to do with focus. And, you know, when I'm working, I just have it on in the background. And, you know, those guys will have, I'm assuming it's guys that run it, but they will have, you know, 100, 200, 300,000 subscribers and get thousands and thousands of views. And obviously, I'm not here to say exactly how much they earn from it, but it just reminds you that you don't have to build something where you have to have your face all over stuff. You could pay someone else to be on the front of it if you want to. You know, there's ways around it, which I think is.
Yeah, but surprisingly enough, that's the argument that we had with the artists as well. That we had like, oh, we just show this art, and this art was done by Anthony, right? And then people will say, well, who the fuck is it? Who's Anthony then? You know.
Yeah.
But the moment that we had Anthony on in his studio, which looked like a nuclear bomb had hit it, you saw that everybody was interested, and the views went straight up. Yeah. So it is about people. People like to at least some stage, or is it just the intro of the whole channel, or before a segment that you just literally come on, record that segment, and the next segment is, and it does lock people into you. And I'll give you something you can say to him as well. You talk about milestones. Your first 100 people. If you go to a restaurant and there's 100 people sitting in there eating before you go in and eat, that's a hell of a lot of people. And if you've got 500 views, you know, I got millions, but, you know, Mr. Beast got millions.
Yes.
500 people. Can you imagine 500 people in a room or in a theatre?
In a field these days. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be happy bunny time, wouldn't it?
You are spot on. We had this discussion a while ago when I did a 2-day event at my house in the Cotswolds. So we were in the room I'm in now, And we spoke about another guy who was younger and wanted to launch a YouTube channel. And we said the problem now is, I mean, you could say it's aspirational, but the problem is that people are fixated on like assuming you need to get millions of views for things to be successful. But I always look at it now, and I've gone through that whole like roller coaster of thinking what's important. But even for me, I look now and say, I make content for a specific kind of guy, and that guy is the kind of guy I want to join my network. So if it only got 300 views, but one of the guys, but that's very targeted at the right kind of person, that's as valuable as a million people that see it and no one takes any action at all. And this is what I try to explain to the guys. So much stuff of now of social media is like, how many likes did you get and how many views? But that doesn't always convert into what,
No, well, the likes are not important. The likes are if you're putting up, like all the pulp that gets put onto, to let's say to the telephone orientated social media platforms.
Yeah.
Because that gives everybody much dicus erectus, I'm sure. But it's that the likes, it's the views that are important.
Yeah.
Again, and to see them in perspective, 20,000 is a championship football ground full of people. Yeah. 50,000 is a Premiership football field stadium full of people. And that's, if you can look at it in and can relate the views to a structure that around where we live in, then the people it's a real comfort.
Yes.
Because I did something and somebody said, I said, yeah, it bugged me. I spent like day and a half doing it, and I got 300 views. And he said, well, 300 views. He said, have you seen what 300 views 300 people look like in the theatre?
Yeah. And you think,
oh yeah. So and I found that really comforting, and that was for me was a click moment, and I thought, okay, well that's fine, and I understand it now. It doesn't. It's really not bugging me so much.
I think it's important because in the age of social media now, we can get caught up in that. More must mean better, and what you then find is people suffer from this kind of paralysis of production because they have that fear of like failure or looking stupid, that they don't get loads of social media interaction or what have you. And I look back at that kind of worry about fear of looking stupid is going to be the same for some people that's holding them back by launching their little idea in their business, because some people will never understand what you're trying to do. Even if you're trying to create a local business doing, as a hairdresser or something, you'll always have some people that they're not going to see your vision. But I guarantee at one point they'll end up asking you for advice when you're a couple of years in and you'll have fucked up, made loads of mistakes, and you'll have learned so much from all this stuff.
Well, you have to ask people as well. What sort of skin do you have? Are you a butterfly or a rhinoceros? And again, to help people try. Well, what do you mean by that? So, well, if every tiny touch bruises you and could kill you, then don't start.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same when I was running telesales teams. I used to say to them, good morning and welcome to the boxing ring, because you are going to be battered today, absolutely battered.
Yeah.
But your victory comes by that appointment or whatever it was we were trying to promote, whatever. But you can't knock everybody out in the first round. Sometimes you got to go in there for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
And sometimes nothing happens, and you have to wait for the referee. In this case, then, that out of the blue, someone will call you back. So,
and that's why, in a way, the title of the show was the ideas that could have changed everything, and the graveyard of ideas. I know some people that have had some really, I think, good ideas, but they've never done anything with it. And then I've got some people, again, it's guys that I've worked with who have had an idea, and I've kicked their ass and pushed them, and that idea has come to light. And we've got guys now that have written books. There's 3 guys in my membership that have all written books. One is for stressed frontline workers in the emergency services, so it's very niche. Another guy's written about an old story of Spitfires from World War II or I can't remember. And all these things came from an idea. But idea to execution, as we say, there's that gap in the middle. and I say, books are a great example. I know a lot of people that have said, I've always said I'd write a book. Like, why haven't you? Because, it seems too big a kind of a mountain to climb. But you say, look, why don't you say this weekend, I'm going to write the introduction, or I'm going to write one page of a chapter or something, and just take that first step. I always look back at Brian Tracy with his great book, Eat That Frog. When you think, if you had to eat a smelly frog today, when's the best time to do it? First thing in the morning, get it out of the way. But also for people, it's because they've got fear of failure. They think they're too busy. They don't realize their own value and ability, that they don't take action. So this is my reminder to say, unless you do it and try, you'll never fucking know.
I was listening to some authors last night, and they said I don't know where they got it from, Kingsley Ames, so it goes back a long way. But so they were quoting a quote of a quote of a quote. Let's put it that way. So I'm at the end of that chain. But they said, always finish your day's work in the middle of a sentence.
Right.
Because that will encourage you to go back and finish it the next day.
Yeah.
That's an absolute rule. Okay, I'll just stop.
Yeah.
And you do a little and you do a lot. It's the same with business as well. It's again, when I was training people, I always tried to. I'm a visual thinker myself, so I'm dyslexic, so it's nearly impossible for me to write anything on a whiteboard that anybody can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always tried to do it through speech and do it through trying to visualize everything. But so it's business is like this, like a snooker table, a billiard table. If you can look at it and admire it, but the only way anything's going to happen is if you get down and take the effort, pick up the cue. As soon as you do that, everybody's going to be looking at you because there's that sense of anticipation.
Yeah,
what's he doing with that? What's he doing? What's he doing with that cue in his hand? And then you have to have the nerve to hit that first ball, and then pray that it's going to wherever you think it's going to be. But the most important message there is that you've put energy into the project, and anything could happen.
Yeah.
So get over the fact that you're going to be looked at strangely when you pick up that cue. Get over your own fear of what will happen when I hit the cue ball. And live with the energy.
I always look at it when people get stuck on the what to do next. My view is like, make the next step so laughably small that you can achieve it. You can't not do it, if that makes sense. When it might make a phone call or make a plan or whatever it is. What's that next step? And I would guess, again, a lot of people that will be listening or watching podcasts like this, are clearly smart. They've got capabilities, but it won't be the ideas that are holding them back. It'll be the execution of it because of fear of fucking up, looking stupid, etc., etc. I always love to hear ideas. So if anybody is listening that has an idea, somehow put it in the comments or what have you, and let us know what your thoughts are.
The most successful sales day I had for booking appointments. I challenged the team. I said, you will get a prize from me at the end of the day. This is on a Friday. And they said, what's the prize? And I produced a Mars bar. And I put that up on a shelf in the office.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and that's what you're gonna win today. And my God, they all went for it.
Small thing.
Yeah, and the guy who ate it, he said, who won it and ate it, he said, that's the sweetest thing I've ever eaten. I said, yeah. So because if I'd have said like, you win the Rolex, or you win, a weekend away, or I don't want a weekend away, just split up with my wife, or I'll give you a Porsche. Can't afford to run it. But a Mars bar, talking about that little step, you don't need big prizes to push people forward. It's so like, you want that? Hey, you want that Mars bar?
Yeah.
Come on, show me you can earn it. Go for it.
I think for a lot of people, again, kind of procrastination can be a big part. But when I was trying to encourage guys to celebrate when you've taken action, and even yesterday on the call, I'm there to remind some people, to remind them of the stuff they know they should be doing, but they aren't. So it doesn't have to be highly technical, but you'll find a lot of people know what they should be doing and aren't because of fear and procrastination or what have you. But you've got to look at it that, could you make a small plan and just get started and work your way through it? Because I've loved hearing from some guys who have started with this little idea that's turned into something really big. And one day you'll look back and think, fucking hell, thank God I actually took some action on it, instead of sitting there with my dick in my hand, watching more men run around a field playing sport and wondering why I haven't got enough money in the bank account, basically. Harsh as that might sound.
Yeah, well, this is a little bit of where we're at, isn't it? That for some reason or another, there's an element of the society which we live in where it just wants us to spend our time watching other people live their lives.
Yeah.
And that, because they don't want everybody to be working for themselves. They don't want everybody to be happy. I mean, when I went to school, I came from the city, and I went to a village, and my parents went to move in a village when I was 8, and it ended up that I went to a secondary modern school because I didn't know then, that was the dyslexia that was like holding me back on a lot of stuff. But yeah, there was an expectation that because I went, it was also turned out to be the lowest academically qualified school in Suffolk as well, which didn't help. Yeah. But the expectations of going to that school was I was going to be factory fodder.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's what the system was built for me to do.
That's what the Ministry of Education, it used to be called, was set up. Yeah. Especially to get, if you were good with your hands, you were sent out to work in a factory, and if you were good with your brain, as it were, you were put behind a desk, and that was it to rebuild everything.
And I was neither. So
somewhere in between.
So I've got these school reports that says things like, David tries hard. David is pleasant to have in the classroom. He does his best. He tries hard.
Bless him.
There you go. Yeah, bless him. Bless my cotton socks.
Yeah, well, again, we'll finish on that point of, again, for everybody, if you don't try, you don't know. And for me, it is about, telling people your idea, running it by some people, and just getting started, and get on that first step. And then one day you'll be at the top of the staircase, and the staircase probably never ends, but one day you'll look down and realize how far you've come, basically.
Yeah. And my personal motto is, after fear comes only excitement.
Maybe people should write that down.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's go on to lost and found, because I've got, it's a found but a lost, so we'll come on to that.
Ooh, we're getting complicated. Let's go lost and found.
Ever wonder how millions vanish into thin air, or how a single dollar can make all the difference? Join us on Lost and Found, where we dive into the wild world of financial mysteries. From misplaced fortunes to unexpected windfalls, we unravel the stories of people, companies, organizations, and even governments who've lost and found millions. Lost and Found, because every dollar has a story.
Well, it's funny, because I didn't ever work for a bank, but worked alongside lots of banks. I find it really interesting to see how banks are performing. And before we actually move on to it, when you go down rabbit holes of how much media manipulate people, I have a belief that not only is it the media, as in newspapers like news, but also social media is there to manipulate you. And I always encourage people now to look back, or when I say look back, stand back and think, are there certain stories or agendas that are being pushed more at the moment? And if so, why? Why this and why now is always a very good question to look at. And in fact, the other day on LinkedIn, I broke down a headline from one of the British newspapers prior to Labour getting into government. And I broke down the psychology of what I believe is the manipulation of the mind by the way they'd put certain words in, and the colours and the size and the surroundings. So it's always a reminder to be alert about stuff. But at the moment, I've noticed a few more channels that are pushing the economy is about to collapse narrative. Now, I do believe the economy is going to collapse at some point, so this isn't me saying they're talking rubbish, but I always find it very interesting when several of them all are saying it at the same time. Is that because they know something we don't? Is it that they're being told to say it because it puts in our mind the economy is about to collapse and everybody gets in a fearful state? So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. I mean, we're recording this at early September, so who knows where things go from here. But the banking sector itself, I believe, is is teetering on red anyway. So we shall see what it brings. But David, if you can bring up my lost and found, we'll jump into that. So ANZ, which is Australia and New Zealand Banking Group, ANZ as it were, the major costs being cut under their new CEO, Nuno Matos, if I pronounced that correctly. Good. If I haven't, I can give a shit. And he's instigating sweeping transformation dubbed Nuno-geddon, which has got a real good feel to it, which could, and I always think this is important, when they always start with the words could or might, could result in up to 5,000 job cuts as part of an effort to streamline operations and restore profitability. So my question there would be, is that a lost dollar because you're cutting jobs? I would say it's a found dollar, because in theory, if you cut 5,000 jobs, you're going to save a shitload of money. So I'm going to need a ka-ching from David here. But
yeah. Well, I'd just like to say that the fact that they've given it a name as well also helps, because now it's not so dangerous. We can talk about it because it has a name.
They've named it.
They've named it. So anything that has a name, once the beast has a name, it changes. So now the Nuno-geddon, whatever it is not so nasty perhaps as we thought it was, but definitely for the bank, it's a big ka-ching. Yeah.
And if you work for ANZ, you better start looking around and get your CV in.
Yeah. You better sort of stick your head between your legs and
not someone else's.
Yeah. So
go on then. You bring your one up. Let's see what you've got.
Yeah, well, I've decided this week because I've found it to be really important. There's endless discussion that we have about migrant workers.
Yes.
Loads of hoo-ha. And I found a story which I think just absolutely sums up the problem is that they even in Holland, well, actually everywhere in Europe, but in Holland now, they're actually importing people to do jobs, right? Because for some reason or another, the Dutch can't seem to do it. But in this case, it's just there's a slight twist to that, because they're not actually people, they are actually donkeys. And what they're doing is that they have these particular weed, which is growing all around the very important structural pipes on the port of Amsterdam. Yeah. And so they've now imported 3 donkeys from Spain. Shocking.
Yep.
And they're on a year's trial, so they've got an asylum seekers some sort of
they're on a year's contract,
year's contract, and we just have to see whether or not the people working in the port who were removing all the weeds before get their job back in a year's time, or will it still be taken over by 3 Spanish donkeys? I think that's shocking. I truly do.
It's just a reminder now that people think that AIs can take their jobs, but it's going to be a lot more embarrassing when donkeys take your fucking jobs. All right, you're going to go home to your wife and say, "Oh, darling, why am I home early? I've lost my job." And they're like, "Oh shit, so AI got you?" As it go, "No, just a couple of donkeys."
Yeah, a couple of donkeys, but worse than that, Anthony, from Spain. So that the migrant workers, mate. I tell you, there's a problem here.
If they were in this country, they would have someone would have given them a mobile phone, and I wonder if those donkeys came over on a boat. That's the question. How were they? How did they go? Did they come over here illegally, or did they get shipped over?
Well, it's a port, you see, so they could have been smuggled into the port of Rotterdam. But so there you are. You're having this meeting with all your bods. Yeah. In the weed removal department of Amsterdam Rotterdam Port, sorry, which is huge. It's as big as any city here. And so, like, sorry, boys, you know, we were going to send you out this morning to clear all the weeds away, but stay in the canteen, or better than that, you know, get your UB40 at the end of the week or whatever it is, and then your P40 at the end of the week, because we've got 3 Spanish donkeys coming in. There you go. Happy days. Only on this show. Only on this show.
You know that you look over, the donkeys are sitting there in a little golf cart like that, saying,
yeah.
Do you know what? Maybe it's time for maybe it's a conversation for another show. But if you want to go down the rabbit hole of multiple agendas and the migrant stuff, let's say in the UK, what you'll also find is that the newspapers and social media, just like I said about them pushing, there's going to be an economic meltdown. I believe that the media, of course, are trying to create division. Surprise, surprise. But have a think of it another way. The British Army are in decline, okay? I'm not saying in the quality, but in the numbers. And I was looking up the other day, and it was something like for every 100 people that join the British, let's say, Army forces, it could be all of them together. For every 100 that join, I think it was 130 are leaving. So the numbers are going down. Now, if you continue to post on social media and in the media about increased patriotism and draping the George Cross and Union Jack everywhere, underlying the subconscious is going to create an increase in patriotism, probably by young men, who at some point, when you announce, oh, we think there's going to be a war, or we need to enlist more men, you're going to have more men say, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to join because I'm going to come and fight for my country, because now the flags are out and we're fighting against this inner turmoil of immigration. So it's a very interesting multi-layered agenda, I would say, for people to keep an eye on, basically.
I think it's Denmark, it could be Norway, but one of the Scandinavians is the last point of the show today. The Scandinavian countries where everybody at 18 is has to go into the armed forces, but they go into a lottery. So the lottery is that they are then chosen as to which ones that the army actually want, right. And if you get chosen, then it fast tracks you on housing. It fast tracks you on everything for the rest of your life.
I bet it does, because they're desperate to get people in.
Yeah, but they're choosing who's going in. So everybody is conscripted. Yeah. But then the army says, well, I don't particularly want you. Let's see what we've got for quality. Let's see where the holes are. Yeah. And so people who are chosen. Consider it to be an absolute honor, and because they think, right, that's my fast track now for the rest of my working life. Yeah. So they've turned it up the other way around. So
it's dangerous. It's a dangerous place, and anybody in the UK will have seen in the last couple of years, but they've been slowly layering in that they want to, do kind of mandatory enlistment.
They have to, because the discipline's appalling. They can't even get, they could get donkeys to do it, couldn't they? I mean,
and my answer to that would be get fucked. Like, I'm not fighting for this government. There should be nothing mandatory at all, because, who are you fighting for? I'll give you a clue. That the people in power happily send thousands of men to their death, and they couldn't give a shit about them, knowing several men have been in the forces and have left and just get hung out to dry. So it's what an interesting time to be alive for us. Well, not just men and women, but primarily it's nearly always men that are being put in the boiling pot, basically. So, but perhaps we'll cover that on another. We'll get maybe get the guy on that's ex-forces, and we'll cover that on another one.
Yeah, I mean, the argument was, of course, when they stopped it in the UK, the argument was that we have people who want to be in the army, and so the quality is better, etc., etc. But I mean, when I lived in the UK before I moved, we had loads of friends that were in the American Air Force, because American Air Force bases in Suffolk where I lived, about 3 or 4 of them. And I said, well, why did you join the Air Force? You join yourself? Yeah, we had great fun over here. So, well, why did you join? Well, it was either this or prison.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Which one's better? Yeah.
Yeah, choose which one is better.
You
well,
can yeah.
That's me for this week. I didn't even give the donkeys a buzzer or a ping.
We're very inclusive here. We've let the donkeys.
What do you think?
And are you
Yeah.
are you on holiday now?
Yes. So this will be yeah.
So next week I'll be back in theory with talking optimization of self to optimize your business with Phil Robertson and maybe another guest as well. David will be sunning himself. He'll be doing sunning himself on the beach with his budgie smugglers on. And yeah, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you need to, basically. And David, any last thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I'm shocked that you've seen my holiday photos, but there you go. Till the next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.